During the turbulent early 1960s, racial tensions grip America, and Tony Vallelonga, a struggling waiter at the Copacabana club in New York, is caught in a web of financial woes. His attempt to score extra cash by pilfering a mafia boss's hat backfires, leading to the mafia threatening the club's destruction and its temporary closure. Tony, now in dire straits over a minor theft, faces the challenge of providing for his family. The morning after the club's closure, Tony discovers his family harboring prejudices, directed at African-American plumbers working in the kitchen beside his wife, Dolores. Despite Dolores's kindness, Tony's family maintains biased views. Dolores breaks the mold, offering lemonade to the contractors. However, Tony's own biases emerge as he discards their glasses after they drink. Determined to support his family, Tony explores unconventional money-making avenues, selling prized possessions and entering a hot dog eating contest. Despite his efforts, financial struggles persist. A friend presents a potential lifeline: an interview for a position as a doctor's personal driver. Confident, Tony heads to Carnegie Hall for the interview, the opulence sharply contrasting with his cramped apartment, leaving a lasting impression. He shares the news with his family, and a black man in a gold brocade suit greets him, Dr. Don Shirley, a pianist with a doctorate. Tony is surprised, and Dr. Shirley explains the job: an 8-week tour from the Midwest to the Deep South. Tony's discomfort is palpable, prompting Shirley to inquire about his willingness to work for a black man. Despite reservations, Shirley assures Tony of his qualifications. Convinced Tony is the right man, Shirley offers him the job. Tony grapples with the offer, needing the money but hesitant about extra duties, unwilling to be a mere butler. He walks away to protect his dignity. The next day, Shirley calls, offering to drop the extra duties for $125 plus expenses. Tony agrees. On the first day of their trip, the record company gives Tony half his paycheck, road maps, and the Green Book, a guide for safe places for black people in the US. After a tearful goodbye, Tony and Shirley embark on a transformative journey. Despite being opposites, Tony talkative, Shirley refined, they begin forming a bond. In Pittsburgh, an issue arises. Tony's Italian surname is challenging to pronounce. Shirley suggests an alias, but Tony refuses, opting to socialize with valets during the Don Shirley Trio performance. Hearing Shirley play the piano captivates Tony. Post-show, Tony struggles to express his feelings in a letter to Dolores. In Hanover, preparing for their next show, Tony encounters an issue: a dirty, unbranded piano, instead of the required Steinway per Shirley's contract. Tony confronts a biased cleaner, loses his temper, and slaps him in front of Oleg and George. The commotion prompts management to intervene, arranging for a Steinway piano. On the road to their next show, the car hums with the lively tunes emanating from the radio. Surprisingly, Shirley finds enjoyment in the music, prompting him to inquire about the artist when the song concludes. Tony is taken aback to discover that Shirley is unfamiliar with Little Richard, assuming the renowned black singer's influence would be well known. Tony, in an attempt to share Richard's significance within the black community, playfully questions if Shirley even considers himself black. Despite Tony's good intentions, the remark leaves Shirley flustered. During the drive, Tony can't resist the allure of a KFC, craving a bucket of fried chicken. Shirley, unaccustomed to eating with his hands, hesitates. Encouraged by Tony, Shirley takes a bite after some persuasion, marking his first experience with this culinary delight. As they bond over the meal and enjoy each other's company, Shirley begins to open up about his personal life, sharing details about his family and a past failed marriage. The constant life on the road as a pianist has left him with minimal personal connections. At another stop, they encounter a vendor selling decorative Lucky Charm stones. Tony spots one on the ground, pockets it, and despite the seller's obliviousness, Shirley condemns Tony for the theft, insisting he returns it immediately. Upon reaching Louisville, Shirley is assigned a segregated motel, separate from the white crew members. The dilapidated place is the only option for African Americans. Tony, hesitant to leave Shirley alone, reluctantly complies. Outside his room with a bottle of Cuddy Sock, Shirley is invited to join a game but opts for a drink instead. Entering a bar in 1960s, Kentucky as a black man results in a racist assault. Witnessing the attack, George rushes to fetch Tony for help. Tony intervenes, threatening the assailants and rescuing Shirley. Angry over Shirley's recklessness, Tony is also deeply concerned for his safety. He insists that Shirley never go out without protection again, to which Shirley agrees, apologizing for his carelessness. When questioned about having a gun, Tony denies possessing one. The following day, as they travel to North Carolina, the car overheats. Tony stops to pour water over the engine, and Shirley, uncomfortable in the heat, steps out. They find themselves parked near a farm tended to by African American workers who stare at them, emphasizing the awareness of their differences and similarities. Later on, Shirley and his trio anticipate a performance at an influential family's house. In Raleigh, they receive a warm welcome, with the family organizing a feast in Shirley's honor. However, during intermission, things take a dark turn. Shirley, requesting to use the restroom, is directed to a wooden cabin on the lawn instead of the one in the house. When he refuses, the host insists he wait an extra hour, unwilling to let a black man use his bathroom. Tony is outraged, particularly by Shirley's apparent willingness to endure such indignities. Ranting to George, Tony is cautioned by Oleg to keep calm, predicting that challenges will persist at future concerts. Over breakfast, Tony attempts another heartfelt letter to Dolores, but his efforts fall short. Seeing the letter, Shirley tries to resist, but eventually dictates meaningful content to capture the essence behind Tony's original awkward words. With Shirley's assistance, the emotions pour onto the pages, leaving Dolores in tears when she reads it. In the heart of Georgia, as they stroll down a bustling street, Shirley's discerning eyes are captivated by a shop showcasing impeccably tailored suits. Eager to experience the luxury, he approaches, only to be bluntly informed that trying on a suit is not allowed for him. The rejection stings deeply, and although Shirley is determined not to let it overshadow his performance, the indignation fuels an impulsive decision that lands him in hot water. Later that evening, Tony receives an urgent call from the local YMCA. Rushing over, he discovers Shirley handcuffed and naked in the shower with another man. Homosexuality is deemed a crime and intolerable, posing a serious threat to Shirley's reputation. Despite Tony's struggles with racial prejudice, he surprises everyone by being more understanding about sexual orientation. Faced with the imminent risk of Shirley being taken to jail, Tony employs his charm, wit, and a hint of bribery to talk the police out of the situation. Shirley disapproves of Tony's methods, but Tony defends his actions, claiming he had no other recourse. United by the constraints of their contract, they hit the road the next morning, journeying from Memphis, Tennessee. As Tony unloads their bags, he catches the attention of local members of the Italian mob, who, surprised to see him working for a person of color, extend an invitation for drinks and a different job. Politely declining the job, Tony agrees to meet for drinks later. That night, as Tony leaves his room, he encounters a concerned Shirley, who offers him a promotion and a pay raise to dissuade him from leaving. Tony, taken aback, clarifies that he's content with his current job and pay, rejecting the new position. Shirley apologizes for the prior night's events, mending the rift. With their bond deepening, Tony and Shirley share a reflective moment, discussing Shirley's journey as a pianist. Shirley recounts how his mother taught him to play the piano and his early tours in the Florida Panhandle, where a mentor helped him explore classical music. Despite his passion for classical compositions, the record company pressured him into performing more popular music due to his skin color. Tony, an ardent fan, assures Shirley that his music is exceptional and unique, earning heartfelt gratitude from the pianist. In the ensuing weeks, Tony continues to seek Shirley's assistance with his letters to Dolores, resulting in commendable progress. As Dolores reads the letters to her family, Tony's newfound writing skills impress everyone. Their friendship blossoms, unaffected by societal norms. With the weeks swiftly passing, the time comes for their final show in Birmingham. En route, caught in a torrential downpour, They lose their way in the stormy night and are stopped by the police. Upon seeing Shirley, the officer reveals they are in a sundown town, where black individuals aren't permitted after dark. Ordered out of the car, the aggressive and bigoted officer makes a racist joke about Tony's Italian heritage. Unable to contain his anger, Tony delivers a punch to the officer, resulting in both Tony and Shirley being thrown into jail. Tony for assaulting a police officer and Shirley without clear cause. Desperate to make it to their show on time, Shirley makes an unexpected call. Minutes later, the chief of police answers, and after a brief conversation, orders their immediate release. To Tony's surprise, Shirley had called the U.S. Attorney General, who, in turn, had the state governor order their release. While Tony is impressed, Shirley is furious, forced to call in a favor for what he considers a petty issue. He's further upset at Tony for causing a scene after enduring discrimination himself throughout his life. In the heat of the argument, Tony, overwhelmed by frustration, tells Shirley that he's blacker than him due to Shirley's refined demeanor and perceived disconnection from his own people. Hurt by the words, Shirley requests Tony to stop the car and steps out into the rain. In a vulnerable moment, Shirley breaks down about the profound loneliness in his life, losing touch with his only brother and feeling like he doesn't belong anywhere. The black community sees him as not black enough, while the white community looks down upon him once he steps off the stage. The weight of Shirley's pain hangs heavy in the air, leaving Tony struck by the depth of his suffering. Unable to find the right words, the two men drive off in tense silence, settling into a hotel for the night. After the tumultuous night, Tony, feeling compelled to pen a letter to Dolores, even though he'll be home soon, surprises Shirley. Observing this, Shirley offers to assist, only to discover that Tony, under his guidance, has learned to express himself through words and no longer requires help. Shirley can't help but feel a sense of pride in Tony's growth. The next morning, Tony and Shirley arrive in Birmingham for the final performance of their tour. The doctor is welcomed like a celebrity by the general manager, Mr. Kindle, who designates him as the guest of honor and guides him toward his dressing room, an unimpressive storage closet behind the kitchen. Despite the subpar accommodations, Shirley remains gracious and eager to deliver his set, planning to meet Tony in the restaurant before the show for a quick bite. Tony, joined by George and Oleg for his meal, shares a drink with them. Oleg reveals the true purpose behind the tour, explaining that Shirley aimed to shift the mindset of white people and open their hearts to his community. Touched by this revelation, Tony grapples with the realization of the challenges faced by black individuals. As Shirley, impeccably dressed for his performance, approaches the table, he is halted by the costiers, informing him that he is not allowed to dine there. Witnessing the commotion, Tony intervenes and urges the general manager to make an exception. The request is denied, and Shirley is left with the choice of eating in the storage closet or heading down the road to a bar named Orange Bird. Defiantly, Shirley declares that he will not perform unless he is allowed to have his dinner with dignity. Mr. Kendall pulls Tony aside and offers him a bribe to persuade Shirley to perform. Deeply insulted, Tony confronts Kendall aggressively. Witnessing Tony's reaction, Shirley inquires whether he should cancel the concert or simply walk away. Proud of his friend's resolve, Tony doesn't hesitate to walk out of the hotel. They head to Orange Bird, a bar filled with black patrons, and enjoy a hearty meal at the bartender's suggestion. Shirley plays the piano, unveiling classical music for the first time before Tony, something he was never permitted to do for a white audience. Touched and teary-eyed by the end of the performance, Tony witnesses Shirley's unparalleled happiness. As they leave, two young men attempt to mug them, but Tony scares them off by firing a few shots into the air, revealing he had a gun all along. Driving through a snowstorm, Tony, exhausted and struggling to drive, decides to stop at a hotel for the night. However, understanding the importance of Tony making it home for Christmas Eve, Shirley takes over the wheel and drives them to New York. Before reaching their destination, Shirley asks Tony to place the stolen gem on the dashboard. Racing through the storm, Shirley's gaze is fixed on the gem. Once they arrive, Shirley assists Tony out of the car. Tony invites him inside to meet his family, But aware of their strained relationship, Shirley politely declines, making his way to a fully furnished yet empty apartment. Alone on Christmas Eve, Shirley contemplates the gemstone and reaches a decision. In the warmth of his home, Tony experiences a heartwarming reunion with his family, embracing his wife Dolores and sharing tales from his time away. As they gather for dinner, laughter and conversation fill the room. A sudden knock interrupts the joyous occasion, prompting Tony to answer the door. To his delight, unexpected guests stand before him. Closing the door, he turns to see Shirley, standing there with a beaming smile. Overjoyed to see his friend, Tony gives him a tight hug and introduces him to his family. Welcomed with open arms, Shirley becomes a part of the familial embrace. Laura thanks Shirley, who in turn expresses gratitude for Shirley's assistance with Tony's letters. Their exchange is marked by smiles, a shared acknowledgement that everything has changed for the better. In this heartwarming moment, barriers are broken, and the bond between Tony, Shirley, and the entire family is strengthened, bridging the gaps that once stood between them.